First order of business, regular business is roll call. I'll take that. Andre LaFerriere, Chairman. Ed Armstrong, Secretary. Tina Rupp, Member. Janice Quinn, Clerk. Minutes, I'll move to the end of the meeting. And we'll get right into item 2, sign applications. The first one is Modern Tire, an application for a certificate of zoning compliance for signs and facade renovation. And that would be Charles.
Oh, he's not here. I work for Charlie.
Oh, okay, good.
Bob's the owner. He's the owner.
Oh, you're the owner.
Yes.
Okay, good. Why don't you give us a little background, tell us what you're going to do and how you got to be Modern Tire.
Okay, so I own Modern Tire. I have 6 locations throughout Connecticut. We're in Newington, we're in Farmington, we're in Rocky Hill, we're in Shelton, Cheshire, and now Old Saybrook. So I purchased Denver Tire back in the late summer around Labor Day. And then we went through the fall, and I always had in mind that we wanted to upgrade the facade to blend it in with, you know, the character of the town and also the way that we bring our business to our customers. So what we want to do is we want to add our signage to it, change it to Modern Tire. And we want to update the facade so that it has more of a modern look. And to do that, what we anticipate doing is adding a stone veneer and then utilizing ephes on top and around the stone veneers, and then adding our signs and a couple of accent awnings that we place at the showroom entrance, and then over the bays towards the right side of the building to kind of balance it off.
Okay. Yeah, you squared off the building here. So I noticed by these measurements, basically what you've done by doing this is you've provided a certain amount of articulation. Wouldn't you agree, Ed?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yep.
I think, you know, I think that's, compared to that, it's definitely a home run. And the signs, everything meets fine. Now, how are you gonna externally light the signs? I noticed that was on the application.
You have that
Externally?
photo?
Oh, yeah, from above, it's gonna be.
But
It's gonna be from above in a really thin,
Yeah.
like LED light
Okay,
above
it's
it.
got, yeah, because it's gotta be full cutoff, dark sky compliant.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, well, these are light, that's kind of what it is, right there. Those type of lights.
Yeah, okay.
So the illumination would be casting
Yeah,
down towards
yeah.
the sign. It wouldn't be
Nice.
up towards the sky.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay, and what we like are the lower Kelvin, like 3,500.
Right in the middle there.
Yeah, we'd be really happy with that.
500.
Okay.
Do you guys want this or no? You want to circle that one?
Yeah, and then I've got some things. Never. Okay, we've got just a couple other things to discuss about it. It's mostly the back of the building, because I noticed on the notes you're gonna paint that, but it goes around the back of the building, and that would be on Lynn Street, where you're at an intersection,
Right.
and that's the street that goes down by the police station, so that's a
Yes.
residential street. So we're gonna have to work on cleaning this up too, okay?
Right. What we anticipate is painting that whole building.
So you're gonna do the whole thing, including that shipping container? If you keep it all the same color.
Yeah, we're gonna paint it all the same color as that ephes that we're gonna
Yeah,
have
this here, yeah.
there.
that's
So,
nice.
so that way it blends in.
Yeah, and then probably put some kind of a fence with gates around the dumpster. We usually require that of pretty much anyone.
Yeah, we
that's gonna
can,
have
we
a
can
dumpster.
relocate it, sure.
You know, just like
Yeah.
PVC fence or something, because they'll come in and open it.
Screening, yeah.
Yeah, it keeps it tidy, you know, things don't move around again because it's you know, residential street. Also, there was one other, you know, see this stuff here. You know, if you have some, if you've got to put stuff like that outside, make a like a little L-shaped,
Yeah.
yeah, you see that area there? You
Yes.
see all that stuff.
Yeah,
You know, if you put
we'll
a camera
completely do
PVC
that. And a lot of that we might even put inside because they have room in the other
Yeah,
building.
okay, just so that's kind of kept tidy, we know you're gonna
Yes.
have that, you know, as part of doing business, so.
Right.
But just again, because it's where it is, and this has been this way for so long,
Right.
it was grandfathered, there wasn't a lot we could do, but in this
Yeah.
case, and it's not really a big ask. We don't
That's
think
fine.
so. Okay, actually, do you have any, questions, Ed?
I
or-
think it's a wonderful design. I love
Yeah.
the stone veneer. I think
Yeah.
you're going to be improving the neighborhood, so thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
We
absolutely.
look forward to be part of the old Saybrook community.
That's a sample of it, yeah, okay.
I'll be there.
Can I
Yeah.
just get your name, please?
My name is Bob. Robert Amenta.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
nice.
the stuff. This is good stuff, look at.
Even better, even better.
AMENT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only other on your exterior lighting is that we actually put a timer an hour after closing lights go out.
I saw.
Because there's enough light on that street anyway,
Right.
so you shouldn't have any problem.
Yeah. We're the main.
On the sun.
Thank you for bringing the samples in.
Yeah, that's important, you know. Yeah, that stone is terrific stuff, you know, this is gonna look great. So, unless you have something else, I'll make a motion, we, accept the plan as, presented, with the, recommendation that they finish the back of the building and put a fence around the, dumpster. Okay, hear that, Tina?
Oh, yes, I'm right here.
Do you have any
It
other?
looks great.
I think so, okay.
No.
So, all in favor?
I,
Aye, okay, so moved,
you.
congratulations. Good luck in
Appreciate it.
town.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Okay.
You need these or we'll take
No,
these?
no, you can take those, yeah. That's nice material.
Thanks.
Wonder, drawing it back?
Yeah,
Whatever you don't need.
yeah, in fact, hand, here you go.
Oh, boy. Thank you. Have a nice night. Oh, boy.
Okay,
Great design.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
okay, good night, travel safe.
next,
Okay, sign applications B, Sun Massage Oasis, application for certificate of zoning compliance for signs at 240 Main Street. And you're Rolf? Okay.
So
Good help.
this is a new business for us. It's my wife Jenny. She's a massage therapist. She's worked for almost 2 years, a couple different places. A lot of times the only massage therapist, so
Mhm.
she wants, she doesn't see any reason why she should work for somebody else. She wants her own store. So we've signed the lease and in the process of doing the plumbing and now we need to come up with a sign and advertise the business.
Okay. I have some thoughts, Ed. A lot of colors in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have, if you go through our code book, you'll find that we really ask for a simpler message. You know, you've got 2 lanes of travel, you've got a center median. And, from time to time, your next door neighbor, had some issue with that and they made some adjustments. They were going to be reversed from that where it'd be difficult to read so you could see their sign much better. You can see the silhouette of the cat, for example, much easier from the other side of the road. Because even though the speed limit's 25, well, we know speed limits are political and it's just a suggestion at times. So, if a car is traveling down Main Street, we want them to be able to see a sign clearly, it should be very legible. So I look at that and it'd be a nice sign, if it were in like a strip mall or something a little closer where people would have a larger parking lot. The contrast could be a bit better, but you got a lot of colors. See, normally we ask for, foreground or background, which would be white and black, or a dark blue, or whatever the single color might be, and then 2 colors. for most of our signs. So if there was some way you could alter that, maybe blue type on a white background, or if you see, you've got brown, you've got green, couple of different oranges, you've got blue, tan, you have a lot of colors. So it's really a more complex graphic. And so we recommend, usually a simpler graphic approach to that. And also your type is on an angle, and most people read horizontal, especially when they're in a car on a highway. We just know the behavior on roads.
Okay.
If it were in a different location, that would probably be fine. So, and you might want to adjust that so you could be horizontal. On this particular sign, I would suggest that I'd put maybe a darker border around the outside so it sets off from the background, because there's no real contrast there. You want people to be able to see it. You want to attract them. So they're going to be going down Main Street. They may be using their GPS, but a lot of people don't. On Main Street in Saybrook, they tend to be looking at parking spaces instead of the road, or at stores. They want to find a spot to park. So, what you might do is what I might suggest is if you can eliminate the palm trees, keep a sun image, or even that sun image, straighten your type out a little bit and put some kind of a border around it. That might do the trick. I don't know. What do you think, Ed?
Yeah, basically like the sign, but I have a suggestion. You don't have to follow this.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion. You might want to try a dark background with white letters and maybe the image of a sun. Same color as the letters. That might save you some money with less colors. In fact, I'm looking now at the what's the next door business?
That's all the kitties,
all the
the
kitties.
Yeah. Black and white.
Using all the kitties as an example, you could have a white sun, a white letters, sun massage oasis on a dark blue background or a black background. It would be more consistent with your neighbor. It would look more in harmony with your neighbor's sign, if you will. But that's just a suggestion. It's not this. I'm just.
Yeah. We try to offer suggestions to that first. And what would be good? That was a good idea, Ed. What it makes me think of? The citrus. Remember, they used to have citrus labels, and what stands out, I think it was Sunkist, might have been another grove. They had a dark blue. It was like a navy blue with the orange on it. And orange type, and that just popped right off the sign. You might consider something like that. Do that reverse, and then you'll have a lot of contrast, and it definitely will attract attention. And again, as Ed said, it'll be in harmony somewhat with your neighbor, and so people are used to looking at that. So that would be our recommendation for that.
Say that again, the
Okay, black,
Sunkist
dark
thing?
navy blue background.
the Sunkist was dark blue with
Yeah, it was a dark blue, and they're orange, they had an orange on it, and so that's really the same color. So you could use that piece of art if you put it on like a navy blue background. That way you wouldn't need any kind of a border. You could use your whole sign field without having a border on it, because it'll contrast that tile behind it. And then, make your type, move it a little to the right, get rid of the palm trees, and then move your type to the right a little bit, and you can make that orange. And that would be, two nice colors, I think.
Yeah.
That would be a nice combination. Tina, any thought? She's our resident.
Yes, I think you have very good points, and less is more a lot of times with these signs. So I agree with what Andre said.
So keep the orange multicolored sun.
Yeah, keep your sun. That's
Get rid of the
fine.
palm trees and straighten the letters.
Yeah, and like go to, that dark navy blue with that nice orange. That's just gonna pop right off the building.
And white letters.
No, you could have orange if you want. That's kind of up to you. But white would work too. You want the contrast. That way people are gonna see that name right away. And they'll connect with it. They're gonna see the sun piece of art, which is nice.
Do you think that would be visible in the dark lit up?
Well, you're gonna light it, you're gonna
Yeah.
have your drop light on it, yeah.
Yeah. But that's the name of it.
At least judging by this little inset, that's what you were planning, pretty much
Yeah.
as the previous applicant had, the LED strip.
Or-
Yeah, it just has to be a downlight though.
Yeah.
That's all.
It would be, yeah, definitely down, pointing at the signs.
That's
Yeah.
kind of reason.
And if you did that one, we wanted his because of where it's gonna be and the size, but this is gonna illuminate it. You could probably do something about 4,000 K.
When
Kelvin.
I took the 2,700.
Oh, okay, that's fine. That'll work. We like 3,000, but you know. What's a few hundred K? But yeah, it'd look nice. We see all kinds of signs and we,
Okay.
and Tina's a designer as well, so she's got a great eye for that. So I think it'd be a nice looking sign.
Okay,
And with that, I would make a motion to accept the application as presented with the recommendation that the applicant use a dark blue background, keep the existing sun face and use either white or orange type. And the downlighting he's planning on using is acceptable.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion?
no,
Ed? Okay, all in favor?
I,
Aye, so moved. Good luck.
Thank you.
Peekaboo.
My turn.
Yeah. Okay. Were you in here before? Someone was in here once before with some kind of a play area they wanted to do, no? Okay,
Nope.
good, you beat them.
We won the battle with her.
Yeah, you won it, okay. So we got your new material.
Yep.
Because in the code, it's 10 feet,
Yep.
12 feet,
Got it.
length of the building help. And so the signs are within tolerance. So the signs are correct in size. I like it. I like what you did with the dormer. Now, were you gonna paint you had some lettering that was there, you're gonna,
So, yeah. we're
landlord's gonna
actually-
paint that or?
Yep, we're just gonna take a chip of the old paint to get the same color and we're just gonna paint that whole
Yeah,
area.
because I noticed that I went
You
down there.
can see, yeah, you
Yeah.
can still see the Essex golf on the bottom and just, they have it like a crest on top that you can
Yeah.
still kind of see. So we're just gonna paint that all.
Yeah, you have all those neat colors there. You've got to, you can do the same thing here with the dark background and just reverse the letters.
Yes, we were playing with that a little bit. We just felt like passing by on the side quickly, the black and white was probably the quickest glance that you were gonna get of that. It also looked better next to that sign.
Yeah,
So I think we were just gonna stick to the black and white on the side and have just a few colors on the front.
yeah, because you could do it like a dark blue.
Okay,
Instead of black,
okay,
and that way, you've got a blue sign there, and so there's some harmony.
okay. We
Uh,
can consider that.
But other than that, I think that's very nice. You see, you got the rectangle, because I drew the other rectangle.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I talked to Chris about
Oh,
that.
did you?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she said, don't worry, we'll take care of that.
Perfect.
So,
I like the sound.
now, are you gonna light that? Is there any illumination on it?
Yeah, so there's existing illumination from the Essex golf sign that kind of comes from the side, it's like side
There's-
light. you can-
Oh, yeah, in the
The
corners
actual
of the,
lettering itself has no.
Yeah, there's, the light is not, the lettering is not illuminated at all. We're
Yeah.
just gonna use those existing lights to shine
Yeah.
onto the building.
yeah, I guess that's existing, it's fine. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's no problem. Tina, any thoughts? I don't know if you got the new material on Peekaboo?
I did.
Yeah,
Okay.
they corrected the size and everything. I think it looks nice. It's the way.
Yeah,
they-
it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but-
I'm excited for the business. My kids are too old to go there, but.
Coffee, So you can still come.
Okay, all right, sounds like a
There's
deal.
something for everyone.
Okay, perfect.
Mrs. Lawrence is a big tub with a lot of plastic balls in it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I accept it as
I'd like to
Make a
put in a word, pick a brew,
Yeah.
and my wife wants to know when you're gonna open, because she wants to bring her 4-year-old granddaughter.
Of course, we're aiming for the first week in May.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
Yep.
Want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve as is, and with a suggestion of making the Play Cafe the similar color as the wine and spirits. That's a suggestion, you know.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay.
That's
Tina,
good.
anything?
No, that sounds perfect. Good
Okay,
idea.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye,
I,
Aye,
Thank you.
so moved.
thank
Good
you.
luck.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. And let us know when you're stopping by.
I will.
You're bringing the
I'll probably be there.
Okay, great. Well, then I'll know.
Good little Evian.
Perfect. We look forward to seeing you. Have a great day.
Okay.
Bring like 8 copies of these.
I
don't know if you need so many.
Yeah.
So you should have these digital.
Yeah, I think I did see them on digital, but thank you for this.
Yeah,
yeah, I have one in front of me.
Put them on the screen if you want.
I have mine in front of me, so I'm okay if it's for my sake.
I just pull the wires, but I, sir. You pull the wires.
It's closer. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Millard of Colliers Engineering Design, formerly Phase Zero Design. Here to present Max's Place Architectural Design Review. Since we last spoke, we've, taken comments to heart. We've made some adjustments to the architecture. We haven't really touched the site as of yet from our conversation. I think most of the comments really surrounded around some of the buildings. On the screen, we also have some folks, I believe, that are here to present the Chase Building, which is this building located on the site plan. So I'm gonna go through Building F, Building D, and Building C, which are kind of under my purview for sure, in terms of architecture. I'm just gonna scroll through. As I always mention, I think the renderings do pretty good justice in terms of the design, but I'll go through the floor plans really quickly. Buildings C and buildings D are very similar, just one's a little bit shorter than the other. They vary from, I believe this one is 12,000 and the next one is 10,000 square feet. The 10,500. The idea behind the architecture is we're trying to break it up into pieces because we don't know exactly yet how many tenants are gonna be. So we're trying to make sure it's flexible and can be divided into multiple tenants. Right now, we've placed a lot of doors along the front of the building. We also have doors as needed along the back of the building for egress for larger tenants. You also see on the elevations, since we were here, we added some extra glass along the street side. I know the zoning regulations, the design guidelines ask for, I think it was a 12 to 35% glazing, so we did bump up the glazing enough to meet that requirement. You also see even though we don't know the tenants, we did adjust the signage, so it's compliant with the zoning regulations. So the placeholders that we've put on the building represent the correct size that's allowed based on the linear frontage of each storefront. Scroll. Here's the front facade at the top that faces the parking lot. We didn't want to do too much along this facade other than the signs are more appropriate. What we're trying to show is larger signs that face the street, and then the smaller signs allowed by the secondary signs allowed by zoning regulations facing the parking lot. I figured once you're already in the parking lot, you know where you're going, you know what the tenants are. So I think the street signage was more important to make that the larger facade. But along this facade, you could see, if you recall, we added some additional glazing in these corners. And then I believe these already existed, but just those alone from the last round didn't meet the calculations we needed.
Those are functional, right?
You mean like
glazing.
you could see through them? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right, so we do have a mix of spandrel glass, clear glass, and tinted glass, or I'm sorry, not tinted, but glass film. So anything that you see that's blue is a clear glass. Anything that you see as this darker color would be a spandrel glass to look like part of the glazing system. And then it is hard to see, I realize, but these windows at the top, those are intended to have a film on them, so that way we can put a light in there and still light up the window. I brought with me today is some materials. So these two paint colors would be the paint colors used for buildings C and D. The stone, as you can see, would be the stone for building C and D. And then we also have a black aluminum storefront that we're looking to use. The siding is hardy board, the hardy board material. The trim is a PVC siding. Again, just want to make sure the materials are very durable, long lasting, low maintenance for the owner. And then, like I said, building D is very similar, just a little bit shorter. Actually, I said that backwards. Building D is a little longer. So same thing here. We did introduce some more glazing along the street side, and also we've adjusted the signage. If you recall, there was signs on the sides of the buildings, which would have meant that these end caps had 3 signs. So we did eliminate those. So now there's one large sign facing the street and then a smaller one facing inward, facing the parking lot. This is the Starbucks building. What we adjusted here is I know we talked a lot about the colors of this building. We kind of went back and forth, is it too dark or should we lighten it? We decided to leave it the color. We did bring in the samples for you to see. I do think the renderings are a little hard to recognize the different tones of material than you can see in person. So we did pretty much leave Starbucks as it was. The only thing that we did change was the signage. I think that in the previous design, previous rendering, we showed 3 signs. Now we show 2 signs. One that's the larger one, which is faces the street, and then the secondary one, which is over the patio. We did push that back so that way it's up against the wall. I remember last time there was a question, since it was mounted to the canopy, that it was a roof mounted sign, so we had to relocate that. And the renderings, just reflective of all the changes that we just talked about. Really what you see different here is the signage, compared to what we were showing last time. We did relocate some of the signs. I think some of the signs we had on this lower band.
Yeah.
But because we had this large, gable end, we thought it made sense to take advantage of that space. Another thing we want to talk about is the monument sign to the site. We did introduce the monument sign into the rendering. I think it's still questionable if that's exactly where we want to leave it, just because of the location and the entry drive, the closeness of the building. We want to make sure it's visible. But we did want to have a conversation tonight about the sign. Starbucks, you can see this sign here, it used to be along that edge, and we pushed it back to the building face. We also readjusted the Starbucks sign size a little bit to comply with the regulations. Details for the Chipotle sign, the monument sign, and more details for the Starbucks. So, go back to the signage, the monument sign. Right now, there's a pretty tall monument sign at Max's Place. I think it's 14 feet tall, or actually, I think it's maybe even 16 feet tall, if I recall correctly. The zoning regulations since then have changed pretty significantly. And last time David Royson was here, the attorney, we talked about it a little bit, and he wanted to propose a regulation change. Yeah, you should have a copy of this, but I printed 10 of them, so you're getting one.
Yes.
So in the regulation change, he talks about what's allowed in the zoning in the zoning regulations. And the signage now, I believe it maxes out at 65 feet. No, excuse me, 75 feet if you're not internally illuminated, and 65 feet if you are internally illuminated. Plus, you have to have a certain amount of distance between entry drives before you're allowed to introduce a second sign. The concern for this property is there's a potential for several tenants within both of these buildings, of course, or within both of these buildings. And then you have the big anchors, Kohl's and Big Y. So when we put a new monument sign out here, there's at 65 square feet. You're just not, you don't have the amount of square footage as you need. So you can kind of see the sign design layout that we're showing. Go back to it. likes to frame the tenant names in there, and this doesn't show all of the potential inside it. So what David was asking was to increase the sign signage. He's not asking to go larger than what's on site, but he did suggest, in here, 85 square feet if illuminated, and 100 square feet if not illuminated. And 100 square feet would be a 10 by 10 square feet max, a 10 tall by 10 wide square foot max. So that's being proposed, and I guess we're interested in hearing feedback on that in terms of a zone amendment change. What's drawn right now, I believe we drew it at 75 square feet. So it's 11 feet by 6 foot 10. So with this, if we go with an illuminated sign, we only need 5 feet square feet taller than where we're at. But it does give us the ability to grow it to a non-illuminated sign. We could go to 100 square feet, which again, like I said, is much smaller than what's currently out there. That's all I have in terms of my portion. I did throw in the site plans, a little bit more detailed. But again, these are the same site plans that you saw last time. And then the last piece is Chase, which I believe we have some folks on line to talk about the Chase design.
Hey, guys, it's Rich Doris. I'm the market director for Chase. Unfortunately, my architect is not a panelist, so he can hear us. So I have him on speaker right now next to my microphone. Jim, can you talk? See if they hear you?
Yeah, I can talk if that works, if everybody can hear me.
Can you guys hear him?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Jim. Which rendering you want up on the screen, Jim?
Hang on, I just received a message.
All right, Jim, I put on the east and north elevation with the new look with the lighter colors. So fire away.
Rich, is the rendering one I sent to you?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you have the 3D renderings?
I do.
Oh, hold on, I can join as a panelist. Hang on.
Oh, you're on now. All right. I'll hang up, Jim. Thanks.
All right, that's probably better. Can everybody
Yeah.
hear me okay?
I can. Can you guys hear him?
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Appreciate it. So we went and from some notes on the last meeting, we changed our color scheme of the building from it's like a more monotone, darker gray finish with a darker bark finish and a light limestone. So we went in and changed our materials to more earth tone colors. The Nichiha material that you see, this cedar color, that's kind of like a hardy board product. It's very similar, durable, cement fiber product. So we went with lighter earth tones there for the main portion of the building. We have a cedar color. We changed the tower element from the gray ash color to what they call a rustic white color. We also changed the stone on the end of the building from a lighter limestone to more of a warmer beige stack stone. We maintained the black storefront similar to what you were seeing on the other buildings. And we capped off the top of the building with our parapets with the same black color coping as the storefronts. And then our canopies are black as well, which extend over the ATM and the front entry, as well as our sunshades over the storefronts. And in the front of the building, we kept the portion of the building that pops out there. We kept that as anodized aluminum. We tend to pop that out as an architectural element with a little bit of a different color change, so more of your traditional anodized storefront on that corner there. I think that highlights all the changes to the Chase building.
Absolutely.
So on the Chase Bank, I like the colors.
Yeah.
And the parapet, is there any possible to put a harness on top of the parapet? It looks like you use, well, what's that black strip? Is that like an aluminum strip or something, or?
Yeah, that's an aluminum coping right now. And Rich, I was talking about this already today. I mean, I don't think we would be opposed to doing some kind of a decorative trim up there instead of the typical metal coping.
Yeah, for a brand new building, I think you could get more of a design elements by putting a cornice on top. It would be more attractive than just a squared off top.
Yeah, I was thinking like, maybe instead of like a crown or a cornice, maybe kind of like a two level molding around the building where almost like a brick mold, I guess, sort of, where you have maybe a flat molding around the building and then another molding on top of that to give it some definition and some depth, something like that.
Yes, yeah, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think that would work nicely here. And Rich, I think that's something we can easily do.
Agree.
Yeah. That's nice. I like the color shift. It's not quite as harsh.
Yeah, it's a lot warmer than the original.
It's more fitting, again, it goes with what we're trying to do here in town. I'm just looking at the renderings and I noticed the backside where the drive-through was, so effectively you put Chase with your logo on 3 sides of the building. We only allow 2 building signs. So you can put it on 2 sides. I know you're standing out there. You've got the drive-through side, you've got, I guess it would be the east facing wall, the east elevation, and then the north elevation, or the east and the south elevation.
Yeah, really the purpose of the sign on the back of the building is to really have some identification behind the building, really within the shopping center. I don't think, you really won't see that sign very much at all from the roadway. So it's really just trying to get some identification in. The one on the end of the building obviously faces Boston Post Road, to capture some visibility there from the traffic, and then the sign over the front of the building to, indicate the entry and really works well with the tower element. But, if possible, we'd like to ask for the sign in the back just to get that identification if somebody's in the shopping center that the bank is visible as they enter from another area.
A small monument standalone sign to, then it wouldn't be on the building. They put like the main entrance sign. To the, not there because you'd see that on the entry when you drive in.
A freestanding sign?
Yeah, it's a small monument sign with shapes and the logo. That would resolve the problem, build it the correct size. That would take care of it.
On the back side?
Yeah, probably not there because you're gonna see the drive-through side from your entryway when you're driving in. But it would be you could probably do it from the street side facing the Boston Post Road. You could do it on that side, or if you wanted that sign elevated on the building, you could bring it around to the front. So it looks like you have plenty of room in the front in your landscaping, put a monument sign there. And that would meet code, because you can have that, and then you have your two some bigger signs on the building.
Would that conflict with the monument sign on, right now we're showing on the opposite side of the driveway?
No,
which would
that's,
be the one for the whole
this is
property.
this is just for Chase.
Mhm.
Just to eliminate the problem, because they can only have two. Take your pick, which two do you want?
On the building.
On the building,
You're saying two on the building and.
Yeah, and
plus the
then,
monuments.
you know, propose a monument sign just for Chase, in front of Chase.
Mhm.
You know, make sure it's in connection with the building. Yeah, and I'm looking, I might have mentioned it the last time, the sconces all have to be full cut off down lighting. That was that signage. I don't know what other signage you've got, because according to code, you know, the whole shopping center is basically one lot, that one big lot, right? A single lot.
Well, we made it that way.
Yeah, well, see, then that poses a problem for us, because you're allowed four directional signs per lot.
So the words is subdivided again, we'll split it back up again, and we can have a lot more signs.
Yeah.
But
But that's entirely not what I'm saying, is for a lot, you can have four private directional signs, you know, in case of a bank, yeah, you know, enter, exit, open, close. I don't know what kind of signage they have by the ATM machine, because it's not a true drive-through with the teller window.
Right.
You know, so we don't have doesn't look like there are any clearance bars or anything that we have to deal with. Because usually you also have signage on those as well, you know, so that's something to think about, because you also have the Starbucks building, and they're gonna probably want some directionals, you know, so that poses the problem for us, you know, that could get up to 6, 8, who knows? And so you start getting into that problem. So just so you're aware, according to the book, there's 4 private directional signs. You know, and they have to be smaller. I think they can't be over 2 feet or 2 by 2. I think it's 2 by 2, 4 square feet for the directional. So that's something to keep in mind. So.
Yeah, and I think we will have to have some kind of a headache bar to show the clearance there at the canopy to, you know, ensure that, you know, nobody hits it.
There'll be no signage on that. It'll just say the height.
Right.
Yeah, if there's no signage, that's fine. You know, you build it high enough to account for pretty much anyone who's going to use it. So that avoids that problem.
Yeah.
I mean, we like the 3 building signs, but we understand if we can only get the 2, that would be the one that we would probably lose, the one over the drive-through area.
Yeah.
The monument sign would be helpful. If we can get that would be great as well.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that as a possible alternative. So then you got the 2 on the building and you've got your 3rd, because you're exposed really on 3 sides, you know, to a majority.
Yeah, and the location of the monument probably would be on the side with the drive up anyway. So I think it might serve the same purpose.
Yeah, that could work.
My compliments on your selection of the color and the material, the cultured stone. That's nice on the Chase Bank. Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
Appreciate it.
agree with that. Came out nice. You know, that's the kind of thing we were looking for.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah.
Can we move on to other items?
Starbucks.
Yeah,
Yeah, we gotta talk about Starbucks. I know you stayed with that dark color. That's still troubling to some people.
so your main structure is an awesome design. I mean,
Yeah, it's not the building.
and the building looks great. Oh, you know, your main, not this building, but the other building, I call it the main structure, the multi-business building, great design. And now Chase complements it. This is a hard, funky design, but it doesn't complement, in my opinion,
Hello?
rest of the design. And I'd like to read part of 68.2.
Pylon sign in the corner, I'm cool with losing the one over the drive up.
Yeah, it's fine. I wonder if we have to, I wonder if we have to lose the one at the, yeah.
You can force
I
me.
didn't mention that, I guess.
So on 68.2.2, you know, it says, I'm gonna read it. The commission may require exterior materials that complement and enhance those already common to the neighborhood. Exterior material should be consistent across the majority of the entire exterior of a building. So you did that with this, I'll call this the main building and the Chase. I kind of like the Starbucks design, but I kind of don't like the Starbucks color. I believe it could be lighter. Need to take a look at the roof lines.
I honestly think that the renderings don't match the samples. Like when you look at them on the side, like they look a lot lighter than it does in the rendering. Is that true?
I think so, a little bit like the rendering, the brick and the wood almost blend together.
Mm-hmm.
On the table, you can clearly see the brick has a little bit more of a gray tone and the wood is a darker color. So I do think if you don't even notice it, there is a break between these two materials. That you can clearly see, you know, when you put things up against each other.
Tina, they have materials on the table.
Yeah, I could kind of see them. I mean, like the pictures of the brick are definitely lighter than it seems in real life. Is that true? In the pictures on that we're looking at the spreadsheet, you know, the presentation you have?
I believe so.
They're pretty dark.
And
They are pretty dark. Okay.
what we were trying to do too is, this building, Chipotle does have a black brick on it as well. So we talked about this a little bit last time.
Yeah.
That does complement the Starbucks and the Chipotle and the Starbucks on site are, you know, it's this corner and that corner. So as you do pull in the entry drive, you do get a taste of the black, dark gray brick from both buildings.
I mean, I just wonder if there's a compromise where, you know, is there two shades lighter with the brick? Would that satisfy everyone? Or, you know, a little bit more charcoaly, like a lighter, like a, not a mid-tone gray, but in between mid-tone and charcoal. Or I think like if there was something a little bit lighter on the building, it would probably make the board feel more comfortable with it. I mean, I think it's a cool building standalone, but I'm hearing what everyone's saying and I feel like maybe there's something that could be lighter on it. I don't know what.
And about a week, it was after our discussion, I was going to Stanford, just before that in Darien, there's a drive-through at the rest stop there. And that's got the two-tone, but it's got the darker color, you know, but it's offset by a chunk of the building with a much lighter color. And I thought, my wife's opinion, she's been an art for about her whole career. Director of the art department. Like that combination, just looked at this and she looked at that. You know, again, it's an opinion. At least it would bring it into some harmony with everything else that we're doing. So, you know, I'm not suggesting you get rid of all the dark wood, but, you know, find a point at which you could break, you know, you must have a break in the structure where you can go with something lighter. Even a lighter natural wood would be nice.
Yeah, maybe it's the wood color that could be like an ashy, kind of picking up off one of the Chase brick colors, or maybe the main buildings, their brick color, like pull just a lighter, instead of the brown wood, dark wood, it's a lighter brown.
I know Starbucks has, you know, a variety of color schemes, so I think we can work with them, see what they're willing to lighten up, what other options they have.
Yeah, because I'm gonna probably make, you know, less and everybody's certainly entitled to their opinion or so we're not really voting on this because it's still a discussion. So, there's nothing carved in stone at this point. But I'll probably make a note to zoning, of our conversation, give us some background.
And also, another idea, similar to the Chase Bank building, perhaps a cornice or trim on top of the parapet. Again, it looks like it's just this piece of aluminum there. Maybe you can offer a little bit of a detail there, just to dress it up a bit, make it look less square.
Yeah, like sort of maybe a small mansard type of eave around the outsiders. If you look at McDonald's and Saybrook, you guys were involved in that. It was
Yes.
before I got on the board, but it looks nice. They put that mansard over when they modernized it. It looks nice. It broke it up enough so that it wasn't just a brick pop down on the ground. Right.
I kind of feel like, I mean, I like contrast, and I feel like if the dark, I'm gonna keep looking at it more closely. I really actually like the dark brick, but I think, like white oak, like that white ashy kind of wood, kind of like a driftwoody kind of more beachy thing. Maybe that would really lighten up those sides where the entrance is, which would also help you find the entrance. That could maybe really be the answer to, satisfy.
When I first opened my package, I saw this picture, this rendering, I thought,
Mhm.
they did lighten up Starbucks. But apparently, no,
It's for signage.
yeah,
Yeah.
so this I like, I think this is great.
I agree.
Yeah,
Say something like that is enough to bring you into the.
for sure.
Yeah.
We do have, actually, when we order these samples, we order the other samples that Starbucks has to offer as part of their design package.
Oh, right. I
So
see what you're saying.
we could take a look at those samples and see what works best. I know they have there's a light gray wood tone. And then, yeah, you can see from that image there, they have different tones.
Yeah, that would go with Candace. I like that idea because we are a short town, and so something resembling that, but then that would be in that category of a weather.
I prefer the brick the type of brick you have, like more so than the one that's in the rendering where you said where the signage is. Like that I think is going too much towards the Chase building, like the first one where it was very, that looks like molded concrete or something. I like the brick on the Starbucks building you have, but maybe it's just the little wood accent.
I'm looking through the renderings again, on the Starbucks, is there outdoor seating?
Underneath this.
Oh, yeah,
This
perfect.
patio right here.
I forgot about that, yes, perfect.
Yeah, we can see a little bit through the site plan.
Yeah. That's nice. Very nice.
Now, there's no canopy over the drive-through. It's just a window.
We're talking about Starbucks drive.
Starbucks, yeah.
I believe there is.
So you're gonna have to have a permit
there.
bar.
Over that. It's here. You can see it, right there.
Okay, but you're not gonna put a clearance,
We'll have to take a look and see how tall that
Yeah,
is
just-
and determine if we need it.
yeah, we'll just need to know that, because that's additional type stuff, for a sign.
Yeah, a lot of times that's part of the drive-through package. If there's a-
Yeah, where is this illuminated hanging word mark, trimless, where's this going here?
Oh, that's a small sign, underneath here. Was something that Starbucks had asked for.
So that's on the same side as the drive-through, so that's another sign. Effectively. Put that in. It's,
So 6 inches by 1.5 feet.
yeah, not very big, but still fits the definition.
Seems a bit redundant.
Yeah, since you already have their, mark.
Because there's two signs on the building.
Yeah, well, you've got, you've drawn a rectangle around this, in that gray rendering.
Right.
And that would be the size.
Yep.
And I think, that's the rectangle that's bigger, yeah.
Yeah, we did
I'm
do
sure
that.
you did that, so that's your, probably larger sign, that one was a little smaller,
Yeah, I believe you're correct.
yeah.
That-
Yeah,
we
but
have
it
that
probably looks good, that's,
65,
yeah,
And this one was only 15.
yeah,
I think 15 was the max.
yeah, I think that one's fine. This what they've done in the past is, kind of drawn a big rectangle around, and now, of course, that changes the whole. And it was a cardio that we dealt with, they had something over here, something up here, and it was ridiculous, so they do one under the other. So is that something that's supposed to go over the entry door? Is that
I want to confirm with them, because I know we're drawing on there. It is pretty small. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if it's intended to act like a blade sign. But
Is it something they can put inside the glass or in the window, or, mount differently so it doesn't,
right, it's
go on
the
that plane?
exterior.
Just see what kind of flexibility you have with that,
Mhm.
you know?
Verify that with them.
Okay. I have a couple of other notes. Do you have any other questions or comments?
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, this is going back to the monument sign, okay, I'm not inclined to, about 2 years ago, Emily Grotowski, who was the chair, and Chris Costa, spent a lot of time, and you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
When we redid all the code, changed dimensions and whatnot, and that was a big project, so. Yeah, I talked to the neighbors, and they're not inclined to, and I agree with them, to go into a change for, a single applicant of that size. There would be a number of reasons, I suppose, for that. I guess you could say anyone with any number of tenants, because I think it was at 210 Main Street, there are 14 tenants. And it's an older sign, it's taller, but nevertheless, there are 14 tenants there. 900 Boston Post Road is 12 tenants. Saybrook Junction has 8 tenants. So, if we did that, we may then have to deal with a lot of other very large signs. And, when you go very large on that, you're starting to become close to billboard. We don't want a billboard. So, that poses a problem as well. So for that single change, I'm not inclined, I don't think we're going to change that. And that's going to be my recommendation to the zoning commission, unless I'm overridden by members, that's fine. And that would, and the other note I made on here, because I noticed you didn't bring it up tonight, because I think Attorney Royston was talking about a possible second sign at some point, and that would have been on the property down by there's that mechanic, that repair shop, or whatever the case is. And I would be inclined to disallow that as well, simply because it's an obstruction for anybody coming out of their property. It would be a line of sight obstruction, even if you had the sign in the correct setback. And again, we don't allow that in the code anyway. So, you have both those things against that second sign. So, that would probably not make it past us. And remember, we're an advisory board, zoning always has the option to, override what we do, and,
Is this supposed to be the second sign?
that would be the second sign, but as Chris really, I know she really wants it to have a family resemblance. And for example, you've got 4 blank slots on that other big sign. Okay, so certainly you can put your are other tenants there as well, and the spaces would be slightly larger than it would be on the second side. So you could put at least your key tenants there. Now, we're gonna want, for example, this here is gonna have to be dark with white letters, just like the other sign. Okay, but because we've already established a precedent for, Kohl's and Big Y with their colors, I would be inclined to let the colors go through, because again, on a tenant sign, you can have a foreground and a background color, and that's generally white and black. I think you heard me say that before. And then you have two colors. So we've had that issue with some other applicants as well, because they have multicolored, logos and that sort of thing. And that poses a problem, because depending on how it's presented, it gets confusing. But because this would be a family resemblance to the other sign. So I know that the inclination is to, stay with code for that second sign at this point. Again, this is something that someone can change, or if they want to recommend, they take a look at it as well.
Yeah, this sign is intended to go in this corner. Right now on this plan, it's shown as a single sign for this new development. The second sign or the other sign for its development is the existing one as it stands. We are, I believe, significantly smaller than the existing sign. It is intended to be the same family, same design. But we're asking for it to be a little bit larger.
Yeah, that was larger just by virtue of when it was built originally, and of course that's changed.
If I might just add in, that first of all, you mentioned that sign that's being shown there in front of you. Sure, you said that was the second sign. I believe that's the only sign. It's just, I think Dave Weston said, yes, we're entitled to another one, the same size down further. But I agree with you, and I don't think we should have, I think you should have one sign, period. I think it should be visible from both ways to the road, so we gotta figure out where to position it and how to do things. But, this other sign is like 146 square feet. This one is 66, considerably smaller. If it was twice the size of this, it would still be smaller than the other side. And so I'd like to take I could do in two signs, which I think, it's a directory sign. It's trying to show you the entrance and what you can reach at this. I'd like to see the sign. I'd like to be able to get, instead of having two small signs, I'd like to have twice the face into one side. It was 1.5 sometimes. It's just practically too small, considering, our anchor tenants, well, they're mentioned here, but that's about it.
Yeah, I understand it, but also you have to, I would look at that, and I would look at your rendering, and you've got the large signs facing Boston Post Road, so it's almost redundancy. You're just telling what you could reach through that driveway. That's all you really need, because every one of those tenants is going to have their sign facing Boston Post Road. They're presumably going to be illuminated, so that won't be an issue. Chipotle is going to be, probably however you pronounce it, it's going to be very visible. And the bank, if they put, the sign out in front on the building, that'll be seen. The only one, and that's just by virtue of its geography, is Starbucks in the back. So I don't know how that's going to be ultimately handled, but we're I'm going to kick that over to zoning and let them come up with their opinion as well. It's just I get feedback as well, so I have to reflect that a little bit. But again, if the board wants to, change that, that's fine. That's my opinion. And again, because it's multi-tenant, I would be inclined to just let it go the way the other sign is as far as the colors go, because there wasn't a color issue when that was put up. So in order to keep it in that family and to make it practical, you could use that. Yeah.
Andre, how about the space between the buildings C and D and Old Boston Post Road or Boston Post Road? Is there a limitation on setback? A setback?
Yeah, they have, what's the state setback? I think it's pretty.
Yeah, I want to say it was 10 feet there. Yeah, that's what you have. We're right at
Yes, and
10.
10 feet. Okay. From Saybrook, yeah. Yeah, the other notes I have, that's what we're gonna, move along, we're gonna have to revisit that as well, after they've had a chance to take a look at the notes. And it'll be like, it'll be Chris. Yeah, the other, things I noticed on the site plan, were you gonna have any cart corrals in that parking lot, or those parking areas? Because they really, if you are, they should show up on the drawing.
I don't see anything happening.
Yeah,
No.
okay.
I mean, these are all small tenants. It's not like a supermarket.
Yeah, okay, just,
It's just small. I don't think any of the existing liner building tenants out in front of Coles or Big Y, neither one of
on the
them.
other side of that road, they don't have them.
They don't have them, but only the two anchors have carts
Yeah.
and so on. And the sign, by the way, is perpendicular to the road, it's not facing the road.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, you mentioned it was facing, it's not facing it.
Yeah.
It's perpendicular. The idea is to see it in both directions. That's why I don't like it the way it's tucked in. We're gonna have to figure out
Yeah,
how to put it.
Can you put it on the other side? Can you
might
put it
have
on
to
the
be-
other side?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think
It
that's,
needs to be in front, it needs to be on the corner where Chase is, because Chase, because of its drive, has to set back a little bit anyway.
yeah,
That way you can see it from both directions.
yeah, I wouldn't put it close to the buildings like that. That's,
But we've got a solution
We
coming
noticed
up for
that
that.
as soon as
that's
we
just a
drove.
marketing thing too. You want it to see from both sides. That's what we
Exactly.
always stress, the visibility. The recharging stations, you have those on the, you do have those on the site plan.
That's some site questions. I believe we were showing them.
Yeah, a lot of,
Looking at these locations here.
yeah, okay.
And
Do you have plans for any type of advertising or anything? Because that's going to be a sign issue to look at as well. So that will add to the, and I don't know what's covered in here, so, but it's something I see everywhere now on charging stations. So I know we're going to have to deal with that.
does that count as directional signage?
No.
Or-
No, probably not. Probably the instructions on how to use, but you're going to have a sponsor, dare I say Tesla or whatever's on the stand,
I'm assuming it'd be most likely handicap, handicap spot, it says,
well, handicap is different. That's ADA,
I understand that, but if I may.
you know.
In other words, you don't call it a sign when they put a handicap on the pavement, do you? Well, that's what I think will say EV parking only.
Yeah,
Okay, down below.
yeah,
We're
but
not
these are actually
advertising,
right
we're not
on,
advertising Tesla or anybody else. There's no TV screens to watch
so you're
anything.
not gonna put anything on the charging
That's
station.
not my plan. That's
I know
not
you
my
have a
plan to do
coin
so.
box or whatever you do, your box.
There's no plan to do so.
Yeah, okay,
Just on the pavement,
Yeah.
EV parking only.
yeah, and, that's fine. Pavement is fine. We don't cover that in our discussion here. And it's the same with, traffic control, stops and that sort of thing. Directionals, again, I told you the problem we have with directionals, and I'm gonna bring that up with Chris, actually. Back to the dumpster placement too, that's come up in discussions. I'm gonna again defer to, make a note to, zoning commission to, see, if they have some thoughts on where those can be placed, because what's gonna happen is, and I'm familiar with restaurant and food service operation, they're gonna have black bags, whatever they have to put their trash in, they're gonna go to those dumpsters, recycle in the dumpster. If they get particularly busy, if they get overflowed, if the vendor doesn't come to empty it, and you can see this in any other type of a shopping center, they get piled, they get piled in front of the dumpster. There's a likelihood that things scrap cardboard, especially with retail tenants, they're gonna get shipping cartons and that sort of thing. They're gonna have to put it somewhere, so they can't put them in the dumpster itself or recycle bin. They're gonna be put on that sidewalk, that's a fact, that's what's happening.
enclosure.
There's an enclosure. It doesn't happen now, and there's never anything outside the dumpster. Please go take a look at it anytime you like.
The one that Five Guys uses, great example.
And we make sure that those are dumped regularly. There's
Because
nothing.
I know that's been a concern in the office about you know, trash being left outside of the,
That's not a
dumpsters.
Max's place, that's in other places where they don't
Yeah.
have it dumped off enough, because they're trying to save money.
Yeah.
We try to keep the place meticulous.
Yeah, these are the enclosures that you're seeing
Yeah.
on the plan.
Yeah, it's just that it's, you know, right out in the open, and I know that. Several people
And everything will be within the enclosure. There'll be nothing left outside the enclosure.
Yeah, because it looks like they're separate.
The challenge with building right on a street like that is the dumpsters, because, you know, you keep the dumpster right here, which you don't really want to do, because that's obviously where pedestrians are walking, so we need to put it far enough away from the building, but not too far where people aren't gonna walk all the way to it.
Well, yeah, because I see probably a higher use by Chipotle, you know, to get out there, because they tend to have more, you know, there's bio waste too coming out of restaurants, so I'm sure they'll figure out how to handle it. And I see where the waste facility is for Starbucks. You know, that's in their parking lot. What's available to Chase? Do they do anything that they must have something, or
Banks
is it internal?
banks cannot do it legally, but they don't have a dumpster.
Okay,
Because that's sensitive information, that has to be.
Yeah. Well, that's just like
handled in
the-
fashion.
yeah, that's just like the dispensaries. You know, we have them build the fence because we have to have them build the fence, but
Well,
there's
they can't have
nothing.
a dumpster period.
Yeah,
Okay.
Someone has to pick their
Fire
trash.
department.
Yes, exactly.
uh, criminal details, signs, yeah, hour after closing storefront signs. You know, and again, the lighting, just as a note, yeah, we're looking at 3 to 4,000 K maximum on those lights. You think of anything else right now, just for them to digest, you know, the word zoning?
I think they've covered everything that I was thinking about
Yeah, okay,
before coming into the meeting,
yeah. Tina, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think you covered it all.
Yeah, so we want to make sure we
If I
get all
could
the
ask a
bases.
question, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're pretty happy with what Chase has done, is that correct?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I mean, is it possible, I know we've got several moving parts here, it'd be nice to get off the table, I mean, if you consider a vote, at least on the Chase building, that you're fine with that you recommend the Chase building as it's been modified to your liking. And although the sign, I hope you like the sign, my biggest issue was the size of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any.
Well, the sign is fine, you know, it's just, again, it goes with size.
Well,
You know, we have to go by the,
I understand that, but I mean, you can see, instead of me having another one, like you suggest would be, if anything, confusing and an impediment. Although it'd be nice to know at least the sign as we design it is something that, as far as you're concerned, is true, but that you, for the reason that I mentioned, that it's a little small, that you would at least support it being larger if the zoning commission would.
yeah, it's, you know, we're not, tonight isn't, this is a, you know, again, a preliminary discussion, so we're not actually voting on anything.
Okay,
But
so now-
if you
now
wanted
we're
to
on the
start
Chase
the
building.
application process just for the bank, if you know, Chris is willing to do that, you know, that would be fine.
Bank's representative for the bank suggested putting some kind of a double trim on top of this parapet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
he said it might not be a cornice, but it'd be like a double trim on top.
yeah, I'd kind of like to see a rendering of that.
Yeah.
For the final signage too, because, you know, as I said, they had the three building signs, you know, we suggested, you know, standalone, but, you know.
Well, to your point, Mr. Lyman, the Chase Bank was great.
Yeah,
But
you're not really
the
approving.
one
Okay.
detail.
so once that one detail's done, can you approve that by yourself? Or do you have to
We
get,
could recommend approval.
yeah, we could recommend approval.
when you recommend?
We're not gonna do that tonight.
Okay, but in other words, once you see that diagram, the Chase building, if you
Yeah.
wanted to, you could approve that one
Yeah.
building, correct?
Yeah.
When you say recommended, is that the same as approving it? From your
Yeah,
perspective?
for us, we're an
That's
advisory board,
okay.
so we pass it on to zoning.
That's what I'm trying to,
Yeah.
I'd like to start chipping away at the things that we need to get
Yeah.
accomplished and make them satisfactory to you.
Yeah.
There's a few
I think
moving parts on
that's
our end too that we
Yeah.
get to
Yes.
disclose, but we're.
I know there's some concerns, obviously around Starbucks, which we talked about.
Yep.
Same thing with parapet and colors.
Mhm.
Any concerns about buildings C or D at this point with the changes that we
My,
made?
my only concern on those is full windows.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah,
on
because
the-
we have that issue with reflective glass.
On the nighttime, rendering, it looks like there's no light coming through, the windows that have some kind of a film on them.
So the spandrel is a solid opaque glass material,
Yeah,
but that is not, we do not calculate that into the required glazing on the side, so
So it's an opaque glass.
it's right. You see
Yeah,
it on like
so-
high-rise buildings, probably more often than anywhere else, where
I'm not sure, our specs,
yeah,
that's opaque glass. I mean, in the definition of our specification, it defines.
yeah, so it says install windows, glazed windows, and windows otherwise appearing solid in nature, not eligible to be counted as that area permitted as windows sign. Doesn't say anything
And we
about not
don't-
using the material.
right, and just, yeah, what you just said is 100% true. We do
Yeah.
not calculate that as part of the required glaze. You know, obviously, it's the back of the building. It's the side that faces the street. It's, you know, the most challenging part of the facade because that's where everybody wants their back of house, their storage, their emergency egress, their bathroom.
Yeah,
So it's hard to put a lot of glazing there. So we've introduced the spandrel. So it at least looks like a glazing system. Honestly, as far as the calculations are concerned, we don't need the spandrel at all. We could just fill this with more siding.
Mhm.
But we felt that the spandrel at least made it look similar to a full store.
I see.
So at nighttime, you see it much stronger because you're seeing the lights coming through. And of course, these are renderings, so
Yeah.
you don't get the glare as you normally will with
it will get the shine.
light. So as you go back to the daytime view, you can still kind of see it here, but honestly, I don't think you're gonna notice it nearly as strong. Like I said, if you look at like a high-rise like building, usually they have spandrel glazing in between floors, because you can't have
Yeah.
glazing and see the structure and so on, so a lot of times that's where you'll see spandrel that blends in with the rest of the glazing.
Yeah, we'll probably have to talk to Chris about that.
Yeah, well,
I haven't come across that before, so that makes sense.
yeah, I think CBS had to use that or something, or they did when that was done. That was again before my time
Mhm.
here.
And you'll often see it like along the
Yeah.
top windows,
Yeah.
because the ceiling just drops below the
Mhm.
storefront.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen it used. I just have to make sure that we're okay with that. I think we are, but I want to double check that because I know anything reflective we can. Because there was a couple of issues with some state requirements for a couple of buildings we have. And, you know, they had to be allowed a fixed block window so they could use, I think some of them, reflective glass. So they overrode our requirements, but that was something else. Overrode that. Okay, I think that's some homework.
Yeah.
For both of us to work with.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Tina. Overall, I like the project. Just,
Welcome.
some of these details will be fun. Okay. You want any actions?
No.
No. Yeah.
Paul.
Good night. I think that stone is great. Those buildings are really nice.
Thank you.
Good night.
You're here for it?
Don't say GSP.
Oh, you didn't have to. If ever calls, she said she was gonna get in touch with you.
She's okay. I didn't want to not show up.
Oh, my goodness. So, what is this? It's no, they're merging. DSB is merging with another bank. And then I saw the pictures and she and I had a conversation. And so we decided to do it administratively. And the only thing we wanted, is to make sure you keep the color temperature down on the light around that.
Yeah, she mentioned that. Yeah.
That was it.
Okay.
So she was gonna handle that administratively, but you might as well show Ed, well. Yeah,
All right.
it's great. Good. You remember, you worked on the GSB with us. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And they're just, and I'm about to do
So
something.
they're actually not merging. It's a new bank.
Yeah.
Actually,
Wow.
Renee, I think, is in the queue.
That's a good name.
Yes.
Oh. Yeah, I saw her name on it. Yeah, I think it's a nice sign, I like it.
Wow.
And, you put it in exactly the same
Yeah,
spot, same size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like it.
Also,
Wow.
What is that?
Susan, is she also with you?
I'm not aware of Susan. Hey, Renee.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, so we acquired another institution, Eastern Connecticut Savings Bank, and together the merged institutions will become Ascend Bank.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that.
Is someone able to share the picture with me? I don't know if,
I think they were.
Bettina, she can.
or take a picture and text me of it, Ed?
Yeah, Janice is,
I have an email, I'm just gonna forward it.
Oh, you have it? Okay, if she forwards the email, that's
Yeah.
fine.
yeah, see.
Nice sign. Thank you.
Yeah. I like it.
So it'll be actually the same cabinet with a new face.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, like I said, the only, she asked me, I said, just, make sure the color temperature was livable and low, and we're happy.
Night view?
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
design.
it's just that one monument sign had a little, looked like, in the rendering, looked like a lot of gloves, I just said,
Okay.
wow, that's fine, because I know you gotta get material and get going. too.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I
Can we take a vote to recommend?
that looks
It's
nice.
gonna be administratively done.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
yeah. I mean, if you want,
Uh,
we can actually do a vote, but see, I didn't amend, that's why I didn't amend the minutes.
Okay.
Or the, agenda.
Agenda, right.
That's why, because originally she called me, I was gonna amend the agenda, which you'd still have to go after.
Right.
Ron Lyman,
Well,
anyway.
just in case, I'd like to make a recommendation to recommend approval.
Okay, first of all, let's amend. Okay, let's amend, I'll make a motion to amend, the agenda for Monday, March 24th to include, Ascend Bank, signage.
Second.
Okay. Tina, discussion?
Second,
Okay.
no, it looks great, love it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
I,
Okay, now the agenda's been modified. Now we can take a vote on this.
okay,
Sounds silly, but we have
No, I hear
to do that, and that way, Chris will know we actually all looked at this and talked about it. And so I would make a motion to accept the Ascend sign application with the recommendation that the color temperature not go below above 4,000 K. Second. Yeah.
nope, I'm good.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay, all right. Now you have a double approval. We do. Yeah, so it made your night worthwhile. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
So,
Well, that happened a few weeks ago too. We had a potential member of the group came in behind all the people who were presenting, and we just thought she was with the group, and at the end of everything, she said, well, it's gonna be an alternate. Oops, oops, take care.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Okay, let's move on to the minutes, so we can go to agenda, adjournment. And what I would do is, accept the minutes, from March 10th, without objection by unanimous consent. Second. They're already in. I can just put them in by unanimous consent. With no objection, they can just go in. Yeah, it's Robert's rules of order. So, yeah, it's, I guess, what actually says by unanimous consent without objection. That's, yeah, something like that. We'll get this right. One of these days. I've heard so many variations, but people remember it's, and I'm sure you have.
Would you like to work to adjourn?
That's the next thing. Would you like to make a motion to adjourn, Tina?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Discussion? All in
No.
favor? Aye.
Aye.